When you think of Brazil, what comes to mind? Beautiful beaches, the rhythm of carnival, or maybe the love of football. But Brazil holds another, lesser-known treasure, a thriving Muslim community. In fact, according to the Federation of Muslim Associations of Brazil, there are 1.2 to 1.5 million Muslims in Brazil, making it the largest Muslim community in Latin America. Today, we'll journey through the time to discover how Islam took root in Brazil, how it has grown, and how it continues to inspire lives. Part 1. The Forgotten Roots of Islam in Brazil. Let's begin where it all started, in the shadows of history. During the transatlantic slave trade, between the 16th and the 19th centuries, Brazil received the largest number of African slaves, over 4 million souls. Among them were thousands of West African Muslims, people of deep faith and knowledge. These enslaved individuals came from regions such as modern-day Nigeria, Senegal, and Mali, lands known for their rich Islamic scholarship and cultural traditions. Many were Hausa, Yoruba, and Mandinka Muslims who carried the Quran in their hearts and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in their souls. The Muslims among the enslaved were not ordinary individuals. They were scholars, teachers, and community leaders. They were often referred to as Malays in Brazil, a term derived from the Yoruba word Imale, meaning Muslim. These Malays held on to their faith with remarkable determination despite the immense cruelty they endured. One particularly striking episode of their resilience was the Mali Revolt of 1835 in Salvador Bahia. This was not just an act of rebellion against their oppressors, it was a spiritual uprising. The Malis planned the revolt meticulously, using Arabic writings and Quranic verses to communicate secretly. On the holy night of Ramadan, they rose up, seeking both freedom and the right to practice their faith openly. Although the revolt was ultimately crushed, it left a legacy that echoes even today. Part 2. The Arrival of Middle Eastern Muslims. The second chapter of Islam's story in Brazil unfolds in the late 19th century during an era of global migration spurred by political turmoil, economic hardships, and the collapse of empires. It was during this time that waves of immigrants from the Middle East, particularly from Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, began to seek refuge and opportunity in Brazil. These migrants, fleeing the instability of the Ottoman Empire, brought with them not just their physical belongings, but also their faith, traditions, and dreams of a better future. The migration began in the 1890s, with families boarding ships bound for South America, their futures uncertain, but their hopes high. Brazil was an attractive destination due to its openness to immigrants and the promise of economic opportunities in its growing cities. Sao Paulo, Curitiba, and Rio de Janeiro became hubs for these new arrivals, who quickly set to work integrating into Brazilian society. Unlike the Malays who arrived in chains, these immigrants came as free people. They introduced Brazil to Arabic traditions, flavors, and ways of life. They established strong communities while holding tightly to their Islamic values. At the heart of these communities was the commitment to their Islamic faith. While many immigrants faced the challenge of preserving their religious identity in a predominantly Catholic country, they viewed Brazil not as a place to abandon their faith, but as a land where Islam could thrive in a new cultural context. One of the most significant contributors of this period was the establishment of mosques. In 1929, these efforts culminated in the construction of the Mesquita Brazil, the first mosque in Brazil, located in Sao Paulo. More than just bricks and mortar, this mosque became a spiritual and cultural center for Muslims. It was a place where children learned the Quran, families celebrated Eid, and the call to prayer united hearts. Today, there are over 150 mosques in Brazil, many of which trace their origins to the foundational work of these early Middle Eastern migrants. These migrants didn't isolate themselves. Instead, they worked hard to integrate into Brazilian society while maintaining their cultural and religious identity. They became known as savvy traders and entrepreneurs, establishing thriving businesses in textiles, food, and retail. Markets in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro still echo with legacy of these early Arab traders who brought goods and techniques that revolutionized local industries. One remarkable aspect of their integration was the way they blended their Islamic principles with the Brazilian way of life. Halal businesses, for instance, adhere to Islamic dietary laws while catering to the diverse tastes of Brazilian consumers. The establishment of halal butchers and later the massive halal meat export industry, now a 4.7 billion enterprise, Brazilians was a direct result of their efforts. Part 3. Islam's quiet revolution through conversion. In recent decades, a new and inspiring trend has emerged. Islam is growing not just through migration, but through the hearts of Brazilians embracing the faith. For many Afro-Brazilians, Islam represents a rediscovery of their roots. It's a connection to the faith of their ancestors who arrived as enslaved people centuries ago. This realization brings pride, healing, and a deeper sense of identity. Interestingly, around 70% of Brazilian converts to Islam are women. Many are drawn to Islam's teachings on modesty, family values, and spiritual discipline. In a society that often commodifies women, Islam's emphasis on respect and dignity offers an alternative that feels empowering. Part 4. Islam's cultural and economic contributions. Islam's influence in Brazil goes far beyond mosques and prayer. It permeates the country's culture, economy, and social fabric, creating a legacy that is both visible and impactful. Brazil's dominance in the halal meat industry is a prime example of how Islam has shaped its economy. Today, Brazil is the largest exporter of halal beef and chicken in the world, supplying countries across the Middle East and Asia. This industry not only adheres to Islamic dietary laws, but also contributes billions of dollars to Brazil's economy annually. This success is a direct result of Muslim entrepreneurs and their commitment to ensuring that halal standards are met at every step of production. And let's not forget food. Middle Eastern dishes like kibbeh, hummus, and disfias have become Brazilian favorites. They're served in homes, restaurants, and food chains like Habibi's, showing just how beautifully cultures can blend. The influence of Islam can also be seen in art and architecture. Mosques in Brazil, adorned with intricate calligraphy and geometric designs, are not just places of worship, but symbols of peace and beauty, reminding us of Islam's rich artistic legacy. Part 5. Challenges and triumphs in modern Brazil. Of course, the Muslim community in Brazil still faces challenges. Despite Islam's steady growth and contributions to Brazilian society, misconceptions, stereotypes, and instances of Islamophobia have increased, especially in recent years. In recent times, Islamophobia in Brazil has been exacerbated by international conflicts and media portrayals. Events such as the ongoing situation in Gaza and geopolitical tensions involving the Muslim world have had ripple effects, creating suspicion and unease toward Muslims in Brazil. A 2023 survey conducted by Brazil's Islamic institutions revealed that approximately 60% of Brazilian Muslims reported experiencing religious intolerance or discrimination in their daily lives. This intolerance takes many forms, ranging from verbal harassment to systematic biases. Women wearing hijabs in particular often face public scrutiny, prejudice, or even verbal abuse. The hijab, a symbol of modesty and faith, is sometimes misunderstood as a maker of extremism or cultural isolation. These misconceptions are amplified by media narratives that fail to portray Islam as a religion of peace, instead focusing disproportionately on negative stereotypes. Recognizing the rise in religious intolerance, Brazilian civil society and Islamic organizations have ramped up efforts to combat Islamophobia. Institutions such as the Federation of Muslim Associations in Brazil or the FAMBRAS have launched campaigns aimed at educating the public about Islam and dispelling stereotypes. Through public lectures, media outreach, and community programs, these initiatives emphasize Islam's values of peace, charity, and mutual understanding. In addition, Brazil's constitution guarantees freedom of religion, and legal frameworks exist to prosecute acts of religious discrimination. Islamic organizations are increasingly collaborating with the government and human rights groups to ensure these laws are enforced effectively. Prominent Muslim leaders have also called for national awareness campaigns to promote interfaith harmony and inclusivity. Part 5. The future of Islam in Brazil. As we look to the future, Islam in Brazil shines with promise. Young Muslims are stepping forward as leaders, teachers, doctors, artists, and entrepreneurs who are shaping a more inclusive Brazil. Interfaith initiatives are flourishing, bringing Muslims, Christians, and others together to tackle social challenges like poverty and injustice. It's a reminder that we're all one human family, sharing the same hopes and dreams. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The best of people are those who bring the most benefit to others." And that's exactly what Brazil's Muslim community continues to do, contributing to their country while staying true to their faith. From the struggles of African Muslims to the dreams of Middle Eastern immigrants, and now the journeys of Brazilians converts, Islam in Brazil is a story of faith, resilience, and hope. Islam has not only survived in Brazil, it has flourished, enriching the nation's culture, economy, and spiritual life. Let us remember Allah's words and hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided. May Allah bless our brothers and sisters in Brazil and guide us all towards unity, understanding, and peace. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.